Thanks for tuning in. All right, so basically the story is today, like, is it a crime? Like, am I doing something bad by criticizing somebody? And is it the right of a woman to kill the baby, right? Is that really the right? And am I, um, inciting some sort of quarrelsome behavior? Like, am I picking a fight that I shouldn't pick, right? Is it really the right of a woman? Is it really her body and her choice, right? The body of the woman only, and it doesn't have anything to do with the baby or the father, right? Well, let's see. So the right to free expression, right? So we're going to talk about that today. So in a democratic system, right? Democratic systems like Canada, criticizing government policies and publicly funded program is a constitutionally protected activity under freedom of expression. But we know how Canada is. Whatever, there's some limits to the charter and all this stuff. So let's say, for example, they just feel like, no, this is just, it's a limit because anything that is constant, it's never black and white with Canada. With America, it's black and white. Yes, you can have guns. Yes, you can have guns. For example, the amendment of the Constitution, for to defend yourself, right? Yes, you can have guns. It's black and white. But in Canada, for example, there's no real constitutionally protected activity. Um, Freedom of expression, well, unless it targets some of these L LGBTs or whatever like to call them LGBTs, right? LGBTs, right? So let's say, for example, you're criticizing the LGBTs. Well, you can't do that because it's not constitutionally protected activity protected under freedom of expression anymore because we we're basically making up the Constitution as we go. That's how I see it anyway. Maybe I'm wrong. Um, but let's say, for example, questioning abortion policies, exposing flaws like gross medical negligence, yeah, failure to, this whole informed consent thing, right? Failure to inform the patients about the mechanism of action of the birth control pills. I mean, yeah, exposing a flaw. Um, and calling attention to taxpayer-funded practices is political speech, and the highest form of protected speech. This is not picking quarrels or vexation in a legal sense, because you're addressing matters of public concern, not harassing private individuals without cause. I'm not harassing anybody. I'm not saying she's just a terrible person or whatever. Well, I mean, she did a terrible thing. She kind of did a horrible thing. Um, but I'm not harassing, this person, without cause. I tried to reach out, because she was, harassing me. She's saying, talking trash on social media. I'm gonna get a story about John Michael. John Michael's, I got a story for you. And they were talking trash about me. I was like, what? So she was harassing me on the social media, and the only thing I said was, we're gonna talk. What's the story? I want to know the story. Right? So that's what I said. So the difference between harassment and criticism, right? Picking quarrels and provoking trouble. So this is actually a criminal charge in some countries, or unjust vexation, right? And yeah, this is, for example, in the Philippines or China, some countries like that, refer to public harassment or baseless disturbance of peace. Criticizing abortionists for their role in publicly funded programs, as long as you do so truthfully and without threats, is a legitimate act of accountability. It's an accountability thing, right? They don't like that. Well, they don't like accountability. You're not spreading lies about individuals. You're addressing the ethical, medical, and legal implications of their professional practice. Government. You know what I had? How many doctors did I have? My grandfather. Okay, my grandmother's father, and also my grandmother's brother, and also my other grandmother's brother. He died young. He was an anesthesiologist, a real doctor. Yeah. So you don't see me criticizing their practice. I get another cousin, or I get one more cousin that's a doctor. I'm not really criticizing his practice. No, but anyway, yeah. I do certainly do criticize this kind of, that it's not a practice. It's practice makes perfect, but this kind of practice makes an absolute failure of your entire career, man. This is I'm addressing the unethical, right, nature of happens when you violate your oath of the Hippocratic Oath, right? The Hippocratic Oath very, very clearly says don't do this, and of course she does it all the time. So government function, all right. So doctors who government function scrutiny. Right. So doctors who perform abortion under government mandates are functioning as agents of the state. This means their work is open to scrutiny, just like military officers, judges, or public officers, police officers. Right? I can criticize the police if I want to. Yeah, I can. I can criticize the judge. I can criticize the foreign policies. For example, I can criticize that, and I should be free to do that in this type of democratic country. Right? This is how the country will grow. That's the point of this whole, you know, uh, how should I say, activism. Right? Activism will ensure the growth of the nation. It's kind of stagnant right there because so many people are leftists. eh? But anyway, taxpayer funds gives the public a legitimate interest in how procedures are carried out. Exposing possible, ethical lapses is oversight, not hooliganism. Right? I'm not stirring up trouble or provoking quarrels or something like that. Yeah, provoking. How do we put this here? The picking quarrels or provoking trouble, right? That's an actual criminal charge in China. Let's say, for example, I criticize abortion in China, I would be picking quarrels and provoking trouble. That's what I'd be doing, and I could literally go to jail. I could, which I'm not going to do anyway. So, oh man, this is terrible, terrible, terrible thing. All right. So your advocacy should always remain evidence based. Well, it is. It's respectful. Well, sometimes not. Factually grounded, morally grounded, right? You know, I'm really having a hard time to say respectful because I mean it's the stuff of a thousand nightmares, right? But I'm not swearing. I'm not getting all angry and all that stuff, right? It is as respectful as this kind of as egregious as the subject matter is. Avoiding personal attacks or violent rhetoric protects you legally and morally. Yeah. So courts and governments draw a bright line between political criticism, which is protected, and harassment or incitement, which is not protected. Right? By staying on the right side of this line, you can justify. Sorry. By staying on the right side of this line, you can highlight injustice without giving authorities an excuse to silence you. Which I never actually did, but I had another YouTube channel and it was quite successful. I remember 500,000 views. I had a lot of views, man. I don't think I had a million views, but I had a lot of views, man. On my other John Michael's Adventures. Yeah, John Michael's Adventures was the really wacky, over the top. People just couldn't handle it, right? It was so in your face, and everybody's like, "Well, I've never seen this kind of stuff before." But it was all based in truth, facts, law, and evidence, right? That was the style of it. It did well, right? But then, the YouTube channel got shut down. Right, so I'm trying to not to have this happen, but this is not hooliganism, unjust vexation, or picking quarrels and provoking trouble, because those crimes require harassment, disorderly conduct, or the intent to cause nuisance without a legitimate purpose. Exposing abortion, questioning government policies, and criticizing doctors who perform state-funded killings eh, are not acts of mischief. They are the exercise of free expression and civic duty to raise one's voice against the destruction of human life, paid for taxpayers, is not baseless provocation, but reasoned protest aimed at protecting the weakest members of our society, right? Calling such criticism a crime is misuse of the law. Genuine hooliganism or unjust fixation involves bothering people for no justifiable reason, but confronting abortion is not petty disturbance. It is a matter of life and death. The intention is not to irritate or cause trouble for its own sake, but to awaken society to the reality of abortion, to the reality of an innocent blood being shed. Criminalizing moral dissent would mean, outlawing conscience itself. Thank you very much for tuning in. See ya. Bye bye.